Good evening and welcome to See You at USC. I'm your Monday night host, Alexia Narcisse, and today I'm here with comedian Mark Ellis. Stay tuned. We are back at See You at USC, and we're here with Mark Ellis. For those of you who watch Schmoes Knows, which is a YouTube channel that does a lot of movie reviews, or if you've seen any of his comedy work, you know that this guy is impeccable. How are you doing today?
I am thrilled to be here. I'm actually a former Trojan myself.
Wow, okay, I didn't even know this.
Yeah, well, not USC.
Okay.
I went to high school in Williamsburg, Virginia, and we were the Trojans. We were the Walsingham Academy Trojans.
So you're kind of the watered-down Trojan that's not as special.
No, I'm not special at all.
Okay.
Not in any way, shape, or form. But we were the Trojans, so I feel like I have some sort of kinship with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
here.
I mean, actually, I would just write that on your resume from here on out. Just put Trojan and let them assume for the most part.
See, I think I have the coolest college mascot of all time. I went to Wake Forest, which is the Demon Deacons.
I've heard about this school.
So we can bless you or we can curse you. It's really up to the person that we're aiming at if we want to send them to eternal damnation, hellfire, or we want to help them ascend to heaven.
Wow.
Demon Deacons. I have the tattoo. I just got it. This is the saddest thing of all time. is that I just turned 36 and I just got a Demon Deacon tattoo on my right shoulder. Yeah.
Can we see it? Maybe later. Maybe later.
Yeah, we can. Well, I'll tweet a picture of it.
Okay, there we go. I'm thinking the campus is like purgatory now.
I need like 3 months before I show the tattoo to anybody because I got to get back in the gym.
Is it healing still?
No, it's okay. It's still like everything's dried, and I took care of it.
You put
all
Aquaphor on
the
it every day.
Salves and all the creams and what you got to do. It is impossible maintaining a tattoo.
Yeah. And some people make it look so good, like celebrities, they have them all over their body. But
well, once you get one tattoo, you really get that addiction that, I should do this more.
So this isn't your first, it sounds like.
This is my first.
Oh, okay.
But I'm starting to get all these crazy ideas because I went with my girlfriend. She really wanted to get a tattoo.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll go with you and support you, babe. And then
you got suckered in.
Because it wasn't like a normal tattoo parlor. Like you think of them as smoky and dark and scary. This was like an Apple store.
Wow.
You walk in, it was like white, virgin, old. It looked so nice that I'm like, I think I can do this needle too. So I did, and I got the college mascot, and it's kind of my family crest. My parents went to Wake Forest. My entire family are Demon Deacons, so I figured it's a nice thing to do for the kids.
For the school, of course.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, you're probably like on their alumni wall. Like they have to have like a look like this is Mark Ellis. He actually tattooed us.
I know one other comedian that went to Wake Forest who's a good friend of mine, but I like to think that I'm the best public speaker to ever go to Wake Forest. Maya Angelou used to teach there, so
that's right.
She probably would have whooped me at that. But
it's a very esteemed school. From what I know, it's a little bit smaller.
Yeah, if you go to Wake Forest and you're a comedian, you did something wrong.
Okay.
Like you misplayed some sort of opportunity you had. I mean, I went there. I think everybody goes to college and they either have a goal or an idea.
Okay.
You seem to be somebody that went to college with a goal.
That's actually the point of my appearance. That's what I'm supposed to do, but truthfully, I just have an idea. But I have the goal front.
See, I had a very vague idea. I walked in the first day and I was like, maybe I'll be a doctor. Who knows? And then after my biology class, I was like, I hope I'm funny because nobody wants me operating on it. This is a true story. So I won't tell you how bad my first biology test was. My second biology test came back and it said 53. Next to it said nice improvement.
Oh no.
I was like, I'm going in the right direction, but not fast enough.
Oh wow. See, that's a teacher I'd want to fight.
Yeah,
after that, you're like, come on.
I just gave it up after a while. Like you take a lot of different things in college. Like maybe I'll be good at biology, maybe I'll be good at math, maybe I'll be an accountant, a lawyer. And when you find out you're horrible at all of them, you're like, how can I at least make people laugh?
That's going to be your job. So did you always know that you were going to go into comedy? Like, what was your story in coming into it?
I look at the modern evolution of Mark Ellis. I think peaked in 10th grade. I think that's like, I still feel like I'm a 10th grader because that's when I really discovered that I had not a talent necessarily, but a knack for wanting to make people laugh. Didn't always work, but when I was in class, if I said something that was funny and I got a laugh from the rest of the room, I was like, it felt so good. and I was a fat kid, and like, you know, it's a great defense mechanism to have a sense of humor, to be able to be self-deprecating before anybody else can come in and make fun of you. So you kind of pull the rug out from under all the bullies that you would encounter, and then you start to endear yourself to girls and to anybody that you may want to hang out with because you're the funny guy.
Yeah.
And as far as a career goes, I mean, I never really considered it as a career until I got to like junior year of college. I started just thinking about it. And I did a couple improv shows. I never did stand-up until after I graduated. Like, I think something about me was like, I don't want to try stand-up here on campus. Because if I do a stand-up show, everybody I know is going to come.
Yeah.
And I've never done this before. And
if you screw up, it's major.
I think
right?
a lot of people feel like I need to do my first show in front of my family and friends so that it's going to be supportive. And I went the other way. I was like, I don't want anybody that's ever going to see me again to witness this. So I drove from North Carolina to Atlanta right after I graduated, because Atlanta's it's a good comedy town, but it just had a lot of open mics I could get up at.
Oh, of course.
So the first show I did, I will never forget this feeling. I had like jokes written about like how bad the traffic was going down there, and it was just really rudimentary stuff because I'd never done this. And I stepped on stage, and it was a pretty rough crowd. It was packed, but it was a pretty rough crowd. It was like a pirate ship. And I remember standing on stage, and the first time my foot hit the stage, I was like, oh, I'm still thinking. I can still have thoughts, so I don't have to rely on that material that I had prepared.
Yeah.
So I just started riffing with the crowd instead,
Wow.
and I ended up getting some laughs.
And this is kind of your improv kicking in at this point.
Yeah, and it's something I've carried with me to this day, where if you get on stage and you're not sure how the crowd is going to be, you can still improvise. You can change the direction of how your set is going to go. You don't have to stick to material. And I really love doing that. Even when I go on stage now, I like talking to the crowd a lot.
Now, I've got to ask, is there a certain way that you set up your jokes? Because I know some comedians do it in more of a storyline format where it's like, well, my daughter and I were driving on the 405, or others tend to have quick punchline jokes. What is your type of comedy? Like, what is your type of joke?
There's kind of like the Rodney Dangerfield school, where it's just very quick one-liners, and then there's somebody like a Louis C.K. or a Dave Chappelle who's going to give you a really nice drawn-out story.
Yes.
I'm not good at either one of those. I think I'm somewhere in between. I like to give a little bit of a setup. I like to let you know who I am. So I like to talk about what my relationships are like. I like to talk about my view on the world. And recently I've gotten a little more political on stage, which is just the nature of the world we live in, where you start to get angry about certain things and you want to vent a little bit. I mean, stand-up is a nice form of therapy, except they pay you. You don't have to pay them. And it's a fun thing, but I never try to limit myself to like, oh, I'm just going to do one-liners, like quick jokes, or I will do whatever I feel like that night.
Yeah, of course. Now, in regards to Schmoes No, this is a tongue twister.
Yeah.
I don't know why you guys would name it that.
I don't either. My
Whose
buddy
choice was that?
Christian Harloff, the other guy on the show with me, he came up with a title because we wanted to project like, oh, hey, we're not movie critics. We're not, we didn't go to film school and study for years on end for this kind of stuff. We're just two regular dudes who want to talk about movies, and we want to give you our opinion. I mean, I always looked at it like, hey, I just want to let you guys know if this movie is worth spending $12 on to go see it in the theater or to never see again.
So essentially, you guys were like the first Yelp of movies online.
I've never thought of it that way, but yes, we're totally Yelp. We should have named it Yelp.
No, yeah.
The
Yelp
sponsorship
movies.
opportunities would have been so good if we were Yelp
you would have
movies.
merged and been billionaires. Not that you can't now.
Nah, I think that billionaire thing is. I think that billionaire ship is
out the window?
I'm just aiming for 100,000-aire. That's all I need out of life.
No, I've got to ask. Your show blew up. Like essentially, I believe you guys were in the 280 million or 70 million views, but 280,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
So that's like a constant draw. You guys have a lot of people coming to see your work. What is that like? Like knowing that you have that huge platform and whatever you're saying, you have millions of people watching.
It's a tricky thing because we're still just us when we tape our reviews, or especially when we do the live show, you see all the comments that come in, and there's a threshold that you pass when you have a presence on YouTube, where in the beginning and you have like 1,000 subscribers.
And tour grandma. And
all the comments are nice. Yeah, most of them have our last name. And they're like, oh, you guys are doing a great job. Love watching your channel. And then you get to a point when everybody is watching, and that includes a bunch of evil trolls who live in their grandma's basement, and you start to get a lot of hate too. And I still say that our fans are the best in the world because it's such a positive community. We call them Schmoville. affectionately. And they really support what we do, but there's always going to be a little infiltration of eggs on Twitter that like to yell at you because I look at myself as like a very minor, very regional, somewhat internet celebrity.
Yes.
So there's a lot of good and a little bit of pitfalls that come with that.
So in the words of Jay-Z, there will always be a hater.
There's always going to be
There's
a lot
always
of haters.
haters behind your back.
Yeah, we're not at the level of Jay-Z yet, but even
You're getting
we
there.
get a few haters every now and again. Yeah.
No, I'm just curious in regards to, of course you came into this, and I know that to an extent when you have a YouTube channel, you expect some success. You expect to generate some success, but did you guys ever expect to generate this much success?
Not really, no. I mean,
Okay.
in the beginning, it was just us setting up a webcam and just talking about movies because, I mean, I looked at it and I still look at it as a great way to entertain people. I mean, I never really wanted to be a serious movie critic. I just want to give my opinion on movies and maybe get a couple laughs on the way.
And Rotten Tomatoes didn't agree. They were like, these guys are awesome.
Yeah. Then we got certified by Rotten Tomatoes, and we got accredited by the MPAA, and all of a sudden, all these things happen, and we are regarded as serious movie critics. Is still a hard thing to come out of my mouth, but
Yeah.
in that world, we were accepted, and it's really cool to be able to walk in those shoes a little bit. I kind of look at myself like Blade.
Yeah.
You know, like he's half vampire, half human. I'm like half movie critic, then I'm also just half like regular guy who can, just wake up and want to know if I want to see a movie or not.
Wow. Now, we recently in school talked about press junkets and the fact that a
Yeah.
lot of these movies kind of like pull different comedians and different press groups to kind of generate buzz.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever get invited to stuff like that or get like random perks, like a bag will just show up at your house for the new, Transformers movie coming out and you're like, oh well, I guess
yeah.
I got to write a good review.
They send us random junk all the time. And sometimes it's really, really cool, and then sometimes it's like, oh, thanks. I got a Rogue One lunchbox.
Wow.
And
You're
it's
like,
awesome.
do I have kids? Who do I get this to?
I haven't needed a lunchbox in 25 years, but now I'm like, I think I'm going to pack my lunch when I go to work now.
Yes,
It's great. The junkets are a whole different animal because that's where you go as a member of the press, and you walk in there and you get 4 minutes with whoever the talent is that you're interviewing, and then you're done
that's
for the day.
it.
So that
okay.
takes up a lot of time. They usually have great buffets, but it usually takes up a lot
free
of time.
food.
So I think we'd rather just have a home base and occasionally send out one of our correspondents to go do press junkets. But for me personally, I'm just too lazy to go spend that
Yeah.
much time on site somewhere.
Now, speaking of home base, do you have a family that is super
I have no
involved
family.
with
I
you?
was raised by wolves.
It's just you and a few, yeah.
I was found in the
Teletubbies and
jungle
that's
when
it.
I was 15 and been like that ever since.
Do you feel like your family is very involved in your comedy? Do you feel like they're supportive of it? Because I know that for a lot of students who are aspiring comedians, there's this draw of like, are my parents going to be okay with this? How do you
Right.
present them with like, I'm going to be a comedian? It's almost like coming out of the closet.
It really is. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If you're a parent and a kid tells you that they want to be a stand-up comic and they're totally cool with it, there's something wrong there. You should
like,
have a little
"These
bit
are
of
a little-
pushback
these
because
are
they want you to
liberal."
have a backup plan. And my mom wanted me to at least stay around the Southeast and maybe try to make a name for myself and stand up there before moving out to a New York or Los Angeles. And I just sat down with my dad at Hooters, which is where all men bond. And I just told him over a pitcher of beer, I'm like, I really believe that I can do this and pull it off. And he was like, if that's how you feel, then get out there and go do it. So
That's so concerning. I just have the image of Hooters in the background and the orange spandex.
yeah,
and
well, you got to distract your dad with a lot of eye candy when
Yeah.
you're going to break the bombshell that I'm moving out
he's
to
like,
Los
oh,
Angeles.
that's great. Okay, yeah, do that, son.
So yeah, whatever you need, whatever you need. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. We're going to be back right after this break. Stay tuned. And we are back with Mark Ellis, the comedian. And I hate to say just the comedian because he's an all-around guy who also does podcasts. And we're going to talk about the podcasts now. So I want to learn a bit about your podcast channel, how it started, and what you talk about on the podcast channel.
I mean, the Schmoes Know Live show is the podcast, and it's kind of like an extension of what we do with the movie reviews, and then it became its own thing entirely because I like to look at it. I mean, the way that Chris and I always used to talk about it was it's like the Howard Stern show for movies, where you just have this crazy crew of people and a lot of different personalities, one of which is Robert Butler III, who's a member of the crew here as well. And it's a really fun, clubhouse vibe. And I think we took a cue from a lot of podcasts that aren't boring, but they're just, it's like, okay, I'm going to interview you and we're going to have a nice conversation. Ours, we like to make it like a full out crazy 2-hour extravaganza.
Just full segment of wildness.
Yeah, yeah. And it's fun to have a plan with something. I guess it's a lot of like how I approach stand-up is that you have a plan. It's like, I'm going to do this and this and this. And then if that all goes to crap,
so be it.
we'll roll with it. Yeah, we try to take live calls again in our new studio for the first time, and the calling system was a little bit.
we go.
Yeah, that's.
Oh wow, is her leg supposed to do
This
that?
is when we had a contortionist. She plays Samara in the Rings movies.
Yeah.
And so she's the girl that crawls out of the TV and attacks you.
Oh,
so
wow.
She was just doing all sorts of crazy things.
See, that looks painful.
Oh my God, yeah. And she can like unhinge her shoulder and stuff like that. And so, we like to bring stuff like that onto the show. It's fun to have a nice mix of personalities and unique standpoints on movies, on anything else, because we do not stick just to movies on the live show. It can go in any different direction. We feel like that night.
Of course. Now, I think I glazed over something. I have to know how you met Christian, because it sounds like you guys have done a lot together, but we don't know the premise of where you guys
we
met.
got married in 2006. No, I met him when I first moved to California. He was doing stand-up at the time and doing really well at it. So I met him, and he was one of the bigger comics on the scene. And from there, we were aware of each other. And then he had some projects he was developing that he cast me in one of them, and we started hanging out more, and we had this great kind of chemistry that we noticed. And so we're like, well, let's try to do something with that. And it evolved into doing movie reviews. And at first we were like on camera, separately. So it was like, here's my take on the movie.
And here's
then
his.
Cut to Christian, and then back and forth. And then Christian had the brilliant idea of, let's put ourselves on camera together. And I was like, no, man, I'm a comic. I work alone. Like, I'm some serial killer or something. I just got to be by myself.
Dexter Morgan.
Right. And then we tried it, and it worked really well. And I'm like, fine, you can come up with all the good ideas.
Wow.
And it sort of spiraled out of control from there.
Yeah, and you guys were able to create something that's been so big and so efficient that it's really unique.
Yeah, and when we started on YouTube, it was a lot like we were still colonizing a new place. And now YouTube is very saturated with all sorts of, movie reviews and entertainment podcasts and stuff like that. So I'm glad that we started when we did, because it gave us a head start on everybody.
Yes.
But it's fun to, just have a home base like that where I can go on the road and do stand-up and be by myself, but I also have a family I can come home to and rely on that.
Now, when you're doing a live show, I guess you could say a stand-up show, do you feel that there's a certain way to construct a joke?
What they'll teach you in most stand-up classes, which I do not recommend taking, is that...
What to say, if you have to go to a comedy school, there's...
Yeah, because everybody goes to acting school when they want to be an actor, and you go to school. If you want to learn a craft, you go to school. Stand-up, the way to get good at stand-up is not go to class. It's
skip class.
stand-up. It's literally to skip class and try to make your friends laugh. And then you get on stage and do it. Because you can sit around a classroom and talk about, this is how a joke works, but until you actually get on stage and you feel what that's like, and either you respond to it or you realize you have some work to do, that's when you're going to know what you need to improve on. As opposed to just, hey, do you guys think this is funny? Before I take this onto a stage in front of an audience. But the basics of stand-up are, you have a setup, which is... I have a girlfriend, and she's weird because, and then, which my girlfriend isn't weird. That was sorry.
She's
babe.
watching this. We're done.
and then you have a punchline. So it's like, I went to the store and they were out of milk, and then you act out sometimes what that punchline is. So if you have the punchline, so she said, "Do you love me?" And he said, "No, but that's a really nice ski mask." And then you act it out somehow. You do something physical to accentuate the joke you just told. Now, a lot of times when you watch stand-up, you don't do an act out after every joke. And a lot of times it's not as pure as set-up punch. But those are the frameworks that you try to stay within, and then you can expand it or totally throw that out the window.
And just,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's your craft, and you're the artist, which is why I love stand-up more than anything else, because it's just you on stage.
It's like painting a live picture in front of everyone.
It really is, yeah. It's like you're Bob Ross. It's fun.
He's the one with the afro, right?
He was the one with the huge afro, and now he's like huge on Netflix.
And a very calm voice, yeah.
Yeah, he's just very
So soothing.
I think people like to do certain substances and just pass out watching Bob Ross
He's
paint.
comforting. I don't even need a substance. I'm just like, this guy is just, he seems right. Now, when you're looking out into an audience, recently I went to Kevin Hart had like a showcase for comedians that he's kind of doing now, where he pulls like 2 or 3 new guys and gives them the opportunity to showcase themselves. And I would notice that certain comedians would kind of feel out the audience, the demographic, before they told a joke. Do you ever feel like you're in an audience and you're just kind of looking around like, I'm going to do this one, or I'm going to pull that one off the set?
Yeah, there's certain times when you look at, for me, I like to know the age range that I'm performing for, because I do a lot of colleges, and so I'll know that there's certain things that are not going to hit with them. There's certain things that are going to hit really hard with them because they're not as old as me, or then, you know, vice versa. You have an audience that is older, that is not going to get all of the jokes that I'm telling
You're
about.
not going to go into a retirement home and tell iPod jokes.
No, I mean, I'll go into a retirement home, but I will not tell iPod jokes there. I'll tell web TV jokes, you know, I'll tell transistor radio jokes, but I'm not doing a lot of modern social media stuff with them.
Okay.
So for me, it's more of an age range than anything else, but you also have to know what's the level of drunkenness in the crowd. Is it the early show? Is it the late show? Because that can change. I'm going to St. Louis this weekend at the Funny Bone there, and it is the drunkest crowds I've ever been in front of in my life. It's either that or Fort Lauderdale. But Fort Lauderdale is more like they've been drinking all day on vacation, so they're a sleepy drunk by the time it gets to night. And then St. Louis is like, man, we've been working really hard all day, and we just chugged 10 Budweisers. So you have to be prepared to handle that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you do a lot of traveling, I'm assuming. What is that like for you? Like, do you have one of those lives where it's always on the road? You're always just going somewhere, or do you still have a foundation?
I try to set up my life where I'm on the road no more than half the year.
Okay.
Because Schmoes takes a lot of my time, and I work over at Collider Studios and do a lot of cool internet stuff with them too. So I need to be in town a certain amount of time. And when I get to go on the road, it's nice because I'll fly somewhere and I'll get a hotel for a few days, and I can tell jokes at night, and life just it just slows down. And it's just so beautiful.
So you on tour, what is your on tour day like?
The most boring day you could possibly imagine. Like if you were a life coach, you would be yelling at me as to how apathetic my day on the road is. Because I'll get in town and I'll take a nap, and then I'll do the show, and then I'll go to sleep again. So I wake up, right? Let's say I wake up Saturday morning. I make sure there's no live sports I need to be watching because I'm a huge sports fan. I will get my usual iced tea. I'll go to lunch. I'll write some jokes, or try to write, just kind of stream of consciousness for an hour, and then see if anything funny came out. Then I'll go to the gym. Then I'll do the show. Might have a couple beers.
Wow, this is kind of monotonous.
Yeah,
See, I was hoping you had a Mariah Carey story where you take bubble baths with champagne and then you go down the elevator and the show's waiting.
I tried it one time because I did a gig somewhere, and they had a Whole Foods right across the street.
Ooh,
and I was like, you know what? I'm going to eat super healthy this week. I'm going to get a bunch of candles. I'm going to get some bath salts. I'm just going to really treat myself well. I had friends in town that I didn't consider were actually going to be coming to the show. So by Friday night, it was the normal level of debauchery you would expect.
Yes. So the bubble baths had kind of ceased.
No, we all took one together.
Just a big group one. Just pour bubbles in the jacuzzi. Now, when you are on tour, do you bring friends and family with you, or are you kind of just solo your entire time? Because I know you probably have like a team that you work with.
It sounds horrible, but I love being by myself on the road.
Oh, no.
So I do. I mean, I like getting away from everything. And so sometimes when you go in town, if you're the headliner, then the club has somebody that's going to open for you, and it's usually a local person.
Oh, so they don't let you pick.
Sometimes they do, but sometimes it costs too much money on my end to get to bring one of my friends. But if I can have the opportunity, I like to bring somebody who's a lot like me. You want to bring somebody who's similar in the way they set up their schedule, so that I don't have to hang out with them too much during the day. Because we're gonna see each other at night. We're gonna be hanging out for like 6 hours. I'm not your dad. You know, I don't need to take you to a museum or play catch with you.
Of course.
But I do like having my buddies on the road, and it's something that I'd like to do more this year, and ever after, is have somebody in the foxhole with me, because you don't really know, if they hire a local comic, you don't really know what their level of experience is, what sort of material they're going to talk about. Are they going to do a lot of the same ground that I'm covering?
Yeah.
So it's stuff you have to feel out. And I like the challenge of it, but there's also a comfort in knowing that somebody that I brought is going to go up, and I know what they're going to do.
Now, do you have any comedians that you really admire, that you feel like you look up to, or they paved the way for
tons.
the type of comedy that you do?
I mean, I loved watching it as this vision of something that it's such a weird way to make a living. But when I would watch, Eddie Murphy was probably the earliest comedy influence I had, because I used to stay up late and try to tape like Beverly Hills Cop or Eddie Murphy Raw or Delirious on Showtime after my parents went to sleep. And then Robin Williams was huge. And then when I started, like, hey, I like making people laugh, Chris Rock had his first HBO special.
Okay.
And David Letterman was on TV every night. So those guys really shaped my sense of humor. And that just catapulted me into where I am now. Where, I mean, there's so many great comics. You know, Chappelle, Dave Attell, Bill Burr, John Caparulo, Eliza Schlesinger. There's so many people that now I get to consider peers that have helped pave the way for me.
Oh, certainly. Now, for those people who want to go out and see your show, because I'm sure after watching this, they're just like, this guy's hilarious. I have to see him.
Like, is he going to be funny at some point?
When does the giggling start? Where can they find you? Like, where can we find you on social media or your website?
Obviously, you can just subscribe to Schmoes Know on YouTube, because that's the easiest way to catch everything that I do. But my ticket website is markellislive.com. So it's just my name, live.com. And I'm in town again February 25th.
Perfect.
At the Comedy Store, which is my home. That's where I started. And so you can get tickets at my website. And you can use the promo code SCHMOES, and I think you get like half off or something
That
like
was
that.
hidden. That was, you guys are slick with that promo code.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of fans from Schmoes and from Collider like to come out and see me live. It's been a great way to grow my fan base and, you know, have people come out and say, hey, you're an actual human being.
Awesome.
Who sweats way too much. Yeah, that's me.
Well, thank you for not sweating on the show today.
I think I did okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
I need a light powder.
Someone bring him a powder.
Somebody get me a powder, please.
And we'll be back next week. Thank you all so much for watching.
What's this?
It's a Trojan Vision.
Trojan Vision? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool. I've been watching it for the past 7 years.
7 years, is that right?
Yeah.